Da, da. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Carlos, so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. I appreciate you appreciating that I appreciate you. Okay. Ready to go? Okay, so today we're going to play a game. This game, I think, is inspired by something I'm sure you played before if you haven't been living under a rock. It's called Kill, Keep, Create. So instead of the traditional marry, kill, the other word that I shouldn't say live, I'm sure. We will be playing Kill, Keep, Create. So I'm going to give you three, scenarios or things, and you are going to tell me which one you do for each. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
Okay, sweet. Okay, the first one is about the creative process. Okay, so we have number 1, mood boards. Number 2, AI image generators. I have a feeling maybe we might pick one for that. And brand guidelines. Kill, keep, create.
Well, as you sort of referenced in the question, I think...
I didn't even lead. I didn't know I was a witness. I'm sorry.
There's a strong bias here. No, I mean, I feel pretty strongly about the AI topic. I think I would kill the image creation aspect. Not to say that there are some useful aspects to it that can act as tools for creatives, but when you kind of cut the creative out of it and you just make an image with some funky fingers, it doesn't feel right. And I feel like this past Super Bowl, we saw some spots that kind of looked like they followed that sort of track, and I don't know if it worked out for them. So I would definitely kill that one.
And then keep and create mood boards and brand guidelines. I have a horrible memory, so I will repeat for you just in case you're forgetting things too.
Thank you. I think I would definitely keep the brand guidelines. As you know, tedious as they can be, they are really useful and kind of essential if you're handing off a project to a new freelancer or a new collaborator. It just helps you get on the same page. And after being a part of the creation of a few different brand guidelines, now I see how much work and thought goes into them. So if someone's already kind of done the work to get this nice and tight and clean, it's just, it makes a lot of sense to just kind of keep using that as a roadmap instead of trying to go into uncharted waters every single time. And then I would create mood boards. I'm a huge fan of mood boards. As an art director, it is kind of the bread and butter of what we do. Sometimes it's really helpful to be able to convey what you have in your mind without necessarily writing it all out. Sometimes it's difficult to find the right verbiage of I'm feeling like this should be like a 70s soft kind of ethereal thing, and sometimes the editor or whoever you might be working with, they aren't on the same page. So seeing some references and not just one or two, but kind of world building in a sense, I think just helps everybody out in the long run.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. I'm not a creator. However, I would tend to agree with your answers, which maybe is why I should not be agreeing with you or disagreeing with you. Everyone can make their own distinctions by listening. But great job. Next. Okay. Round 2. Okay. Content and culture. Okay. Kill, keep, create. Reminder of the choices. Okay, we have short form vertical video, which static brand campaigns, and interactive experiences.
Oh man, yeah. Right off the bat, I think interactive experiences create. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a few projects where we were able to create an interactive experience. And I think it's just the most impactful thing that you can expose viewers to. Anytime that they're actually interacting with something, I feel like it creates a much stronger connection in their mind of whatever value or feeling you want to project as the brand. Specifically, when I was working at Indeed, we were at this career expo. where we would be talking to a bunch of hiring managers. And so we were tasked with the project that kind of tried to convince hiring managers, to open up their candidate pool. So a lot of them were using filters that kind of threw away candidates that had any sort of incarceration history, any people that didn't go to college. And, the truth is, or in my opinion, I think that those people sometimes end up having really rich life experiences that can sometimes offer a lot more than, your everyday average Joe. So I think that project was really cool because we got to explore different ways to visualize what it is that they're doing by applying this practice. So we created this, it was like a big, think about it like a dance floor, but then we designed a koi pond so that every koi fish was a potential like applicant. And so when they applied these filters, most of the fish would kind of swim off and you'd never be able to like see what they were about. And so as they took the filters off, you would see more fish come in, and it just, I don't know, like it was such a beautiful view, but also having the concept behind it. From what I was told, it was kind of a success because a lot of people resonated with, thinking of things in a more holistic way.
I really love that. I think that's really wholesome. And I do think that is like, I think that when, a lot of like when you're trying to explain something to someone and you just kind of provide like things like statistics and stuff like that, it doesn't really like humanize the situation. So like those interactive experiences kind of like put a different feeling with it, where like feeling is very important for like I mean kind of anything, but like marketing, advertising, because like you're trying to make someone understand something. And if there's like, you can understand something by just like blatant like research, I guess, but that doesn't necessarily contextualize everything that you should be understanding.
Exactly. Yeah. See, you get it.
I'm not supposed to be agreeing with you. This is an unbiased podcast. I'm an unbiased source. I have no opinions. Okay, you have two more to tell me you want to do or not. I guess you didn't kill anything yet. So we got static brand campaigns, and we have short form vertical video.
This might be a hot take, but I think I would kill short form vertical videos. I think that TikTok had a huge impact on our culture and the zeitgeist out there, but more and more I'm seeing that there are negative effects with our attention span and just how our brains are wired. And so I feel like even though they might be essential right now for certain brands, and I know a lot of other agencies try to keep up with everything else that's being published, I think it is more important to prioritize the thought behind the content. So like if it really does make sense to put it in a short form vertical video, awesome. But I don't know if it should be necessarily the fallback on every single scenario, just because there's so much of it out there. It's really hard to break through that static sometimes.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I think that I agree with like the oversaturation. I think like even if you're able to stand out sometimes in short form, like especially those kind of apps like Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels Shorts, right? I don't use
yeah,
Facebook.
They got it all.
One of those. TikTok. They like, you can maybe grab someone's attention and they'll watch it, but like a lot of times like it doesn't really have that like it doesn't actually, a lot of those people don't even end up going to a landing page or anything like that, like because they're just like, oh, this is cool, I'm gonna save this for later, and then they never look at it again because they're so distracted by the short form content that is just it's so I think sometimes it doesn't even like, you can create something attractive on there and that can be successful in like maybe viewer count or like engagement, but it doesn't necessarily like achieve the end goal that you're looking for, even if you're able to do all those other things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you would keep static brand campaigns?
I think so. Yeah, it's not, you know, a super crazy, awesome new format. It's kind of the tried and true way of doing things, and I think for brands and agencies that are open to getting weird, they still offer a lot of potential in subverting the normal like way of doing things. So using, I'm a big fan of taking a format or something that's like kind of just accepted on face value and finding a way to leverage an insight or something, an interesting angle, to kind of present that same format in a way that's unusual, because then it's like a really quick and easy way of differentiating yourself from all the other static campaigns that might be out there. So it's okay. It's that like stepchild that, you know, is like good to have around. I won't go too much further with that metaphor, but
Just had really strong feelings about the other ones, and this one was just like the one left over.
pretty much.
That's usually how it ends up working with the other game too. So okay, last one, because we're getting into really great conversations with the game, so I think this is off to a great start. Okay, last one, art direction tools. So we have, okay, I keep forgetting the choices: kill, keep, or create. We have stock photography, custom illustration, and 3D motion design. 3D
Wow.
motion design.
Okay, those are. I thought you were going to come with some more basic ones, but those are a little bit more on the advanced path, which just makes it easier. I think definitely I would go create with the 3D motion graphics route. We're actually right now doing a little project where we're kind of teaming up with an animator to create just a really quick intro to a series. And I think the funnest thing with that is like anytime you're collaborating with an animator or someone that has a slightly different discipline than you, but is also a creative, there's so many ideas that come to the table that like get plussed up, if that makes sense. So like I'll bring up like, oh, what if we do this? And then because they're an editor or an animator, they already have the eye of like, oh, I could do this super easy, but I've actually been trying this new plugin. What if we did this? And then like that sparks something for me, and then it just keeps going and going, and it just feels like such a pleasure. Like, you know, it's like that running downhill feeling of like, this is work. Like, this is awesome. This just feels like a good time. So I would go for that.
I think that's a really good analogy. No, but I completely understand that. I think like there's certain, I don't know how to explain it, but like there's, it's like, for example, I am not seasoned in SEO, but it's fascinating to me. So like anytime I talk to someone in marketing that's like very knowledgeable about SEO, I just like, it's just, I get more and more excited, and we just like kind of build off of like the excitement. And I think that it's really nice to have someone that's like an expert in a discipline, like just to be able to like bounce off of each other about like what's exciting about your work. I think that's like really, really great. It's like mutual admiration.
Totally.
Okay, we got two more. Do you
Could
remember
you
them?
I don't. I have the worst memory.
Okay, stop. No, it's good. It's good. So we're doing it to each other. Okay. Stock photography and custom illustration.
Oh man, I would kill stock photography with the caveat that like sometimes it's necessary. I think if you don't have the budget to do certain things, like that's what it's for, you know. I saw a post a while ago of like somebody taking a picture of a poster, and they were sort of complaining, saying like, look, this poster, this shark isn't even real, it's from this stock photography thing. And then people were like, my guy, that's how stock photography works. Like, you're supposed to take it and then, you know, use it, maybe change it, you know, apply different lighting, and like that's what it's for. And it's kind of been an industry staple for a long time. It just helps when you don't have the time or money to go on a full-on shoot and do things, you know, the long way. So I would kill it only because I would like to keep custom illustrations. I think when you can work with a real live person who has a specific style and they've like spent years honing their craft, there's nothing better, because you might bring a brief or a prompt to them, but then it's sort of up to how they interpret it, and they bring something brand new to the table, similar to when you collaborate with an animator. They're going to bring their own flavor, and that's where things get interesting.
No, I love that. And I think that the stock photo thing, someone getting angry at that, is really funny. It's like getting angry at like the Wilhelm scream. It's like, why don't they just use an original scream? I'm kind of like, that's like, this is like, there's a purpose for this. Like, this is why we have it, is so that it can be reused.
Exactly.
And getting mad about AI like stealing styles and different things like that, like that makes more sense, because that's not like something that should maybe be allowed, but like
Exactly.
there is, but this is like for the purpose of like people using it, so
Yeah.
it's very, very funny to me. Okay, thank you for participating in my game. That was really fun. I might reuse it in the future. Normally I don't ever reuse games, but I really liked this one, so thank you for participating. So I want to talk more about you and your career. So, okay, looking back at everything, was there like a specific moment that you had that you realized that you wanted to do this? Like, was there like a moment that clicked for you, or did it kind of just like, was it happenstance and you just ended up really liking it?
Yeah, I mean, things sort of came together in like this almost like a climax of all the things aligning, and something finally clicked around college. But I think I would say that it started a lot earlier. So I originally came to the U.S. When I was like 3 or 4, and back then there wasn't a ton of like language transition programs for kids that don't know English, and so you know, like my mom was always working and I was always watching TV. And so TV for me was like my English teacher, specifically watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I think whether it's the movie or the series, that was such an instrumental tool for me to understand the visual language of how things work. So I remember watching it as a kid and not knowing English, but understanding like the story plot because of the body language, the music that they use, the editing techniques, everything sort of was sending out this like underlying message for the viewer to understand. And so I think from a very early age, I understood that there are universal ways to communicate. And so with that in mind, I eventually learned English, and kind of just kept making friends that had a similar view on those things. So as I got into middle school and high school, I was a big skateboarder. So a lot of my friends would also want to go skate. And when I don't know if you know this, but when you get a pre-teen, teen group of boys together and they're skateboarding, there's always going to be one guy that's like, oh, let me film this. And then there's the really good guy that can do like tray flips down, 11 stairs. And then there's the guy that's like in a band. So like slowly.
Are you not any of those guys?
I was the pizza guy. I was the guy that would go grab some pizza, come back.
We need a pizza. Everyone needs a pizza guy too.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was cool because like this very organically started to happen where there were all these like sort of creative minds and spirits collaborating on a certain thing. So before you knew it, you would be making skate videos with, your friends skating in it, your friends playing music. Maybe I would try editing it. And, before you knew it, you had this like creative product that you all worked on, and it, before like brand positioning, before any sort of like marketing or advertising terms like crystallized in my head, I understood that the music that you choose, the cuts that you apply, like all of that conveys a certain personality. And so similar to Power Rangers, like we were doing our best to put out something that we would be proud of and that would convey how we felt. And so that just kind of accumulated, kind of snowball effect. And then when I got to college, I realized like, okay, communication is really cool. What else is there specifically? Like, what are the different routes? And so I went to school at the University of South Florida, and I had a really great roster of professors that didn't necessarily teach us the glamour side of things. They kind of started more so with like the conceptual understanding of what advertising can be. And when I saw all the different disciplines, and I saw that art direction was a thing, or being a creative in general was a thing, it was the perfect sort of like medium of what I wanted to do. For the real ones that know, I've always sort of been like a theater kid, so like to be an artist or some sort of performer was always a dream. But this was this like application of that same sort of creativity in a more commercial setting that could, be a little bit more stable, I think, in life, because we can't all be, Jim Carrey. But yeah, so that's kind of how it happened.
No, I think that's awesome, and I also love to see the trend of like collaborative effort at like uh events efforts club. A word that you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like there is, I feel like that also kind of sets you up for like being in a team. Like I mean, and
Totally.
even because like even though you said you aren't the really good skateboarder or the director of the movie or the clips or whatever it is, I mean, like you know how it is to like collaborate with a group of people, and like that is the same for moving like to college and seeing that as well. And I think that's something that's really really cool because there's not, I mean, there's a lot of creatives that like aren't good at working collaboratively, and that doesn't mean like there's anything wrong with them. I mean, there's some people that are just like solo workers or they just work better like that, but you kind of set yourself up accidentally maybe for that kind, like being well versed in that kind of environment, it seems.
Totally. And I think that followed me even after college. Like I worked at a pharmaceutical spot in New York for a little while, and it was unfortunately one of those places that, because it was pharma, there were a lot of restrictions. There were a lot of like, processes in place that were already kind of legacy things, so no one wanted to mess with them. So sometimes I would get a PDF that was marked up that I needed to change, and then I would send that PDF to my copywriter, and so like it felt more like a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Which I understand, like when you're dealing with that volume of work, like you have to sort of set those things up in that way. But it like definitely helped me confirm that I'm much happier and much more productive when I'm working in tandem with people and actually having conversations, in person. And so I think that's also why the pandemic was so hard when you had to work remotely. It as a creative, like it wasn't exactly the same as being in, you and your copywriting partner just go into a conference room and just like knock out a deck, and you spend maybe 2-3 days, hopefully you're showering, hopefully you're eating, but like there was something really fun and kind of you would almost commiserate during that time. So when you switch to screens, it just kind of like it magnified that feeling of not being as connected.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I think that those situations, although suck for most people, I think that they do kind of highlight the importance of like what really matters. And I think that like we're sometimes better off like having scenarios like that, not like a bunch of people getting sick and possibly dying. That's not really like a positive. But there are like I mean there are events that happen that I think like make us appreciate what like we kind of take for granted. And I think that those situations are like it's like everyone complains about school, but then you go an online school and you're like, damn, school is better. I like school is better than this.
100%. And on the upside to it as well, it kind of showed people that you can still get the work done from halfway across the world. Like it showed different ways to be collaborative. And so that, like, I remember I got to work with a copywriter that was based out of Japan, and just having that experience was a really cool just learning experience in and of itself. So I mean, no matter what you do, as long as you're collaborative, I feel like you're always going to be set up for success.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there is so much to learn always, like from any kind of experience, even if it's something that's unexpected. And speaking of that, I'd love to ask you this. I think some people don't like to share about this kind of subject, but I think that it's the most beneficial for people to learn from, like failures, right? Um, has there been any, anything that has happened throughout your career that like maybe you feel like you could have done better, or um, like maybe you actually did something really well and you thought it was amazing, but it didn't like go to post or something like that? Like, have you had any experiences like that you feel like you've learned a lot from?
For sure. I think the experiences that I had in college, like I remember we would have a prompt or a brief, and we would create, some piece of work and then put it up on the wall. And as a class, you would go through each person's work and kind of critique it. And your professor would, either praise you or shred you to pieces. And I think early on that made me really comfortable with accepting criticisms and understanding that it's not a personal thing. It's more so just they're trying to show you what to look out for in your own work. And so I'm very thankful for that experience, because now living in and working in the industry, it just makes it easier when something comes back with a ton of notes, or maybe you need to completely reframe a concept or start from scratch. It can be frustrating, but at the same time you kind of understand that it's sort of part of the game. I will say the biggest, what felt like a failure to me that I learned from the hard way was when I was working at an agency. And I think it might have just been that we were overloaded with the amount of projects coming in. And so I felt really kind of burnt out at a certain point. And I wasn't really sure that I was going to be able to make the best work possible. So I took it upon myself to actually like leave advertising. I completely was like, you know what? Thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to go live some other experience, and maybe I'll come back later. And I think that was like the healthiest thing I could do at the time, because it did feel like, oh man, I failed at this thing. Let me go try something else out. Let me cleanse my palate a little bit. And so I actually ended up going to a bartending school. And I spent the next year and change as a bartender, still helping out with some design elements for the bar. But I think doing that was so helpful in terms of refreshing my views on advertising in general. I think sometimes when you feel burnt out or you feel like you're in the weeds of something, the best thing you can do is sort of like take a walk, get some breaths in you, kind of change your environment. And that goes for creative blocks as well as like career blocks. And so after I was a bartender, I'm not going to lie, being a bartender, like shout out to all the bartenders. It is so much work. It's physically demanding. Sometimes you don't get paid very well. I was going home at like 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes, and it was a really tough thing. But I was able to see the beauty in interacting with people. And during that time, I learned so many lessons about life, like not just in general, but like interacting with different types of people. Like till this day, I still like apply a lot of the things or little stories I picked up with the bar patrons that would come in my work, whether that comes across as like a story or a character or something. I feel like it just goes to show you that you can always take something that you've experienced and find the good in it and apply it to something else in life. So after that stint as a bartender, I got to get coffee with this amazing creative director, executive creative director, who is now my boss. And he sort of made me fall back in love with advertising, to see like all the things that you can do and all the ways that it can be done. And so I feel like that break was necessary to come back and appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And I think that specifically where like getting outside experience is concerned, like I know that you like left the industry for a bit as like a reaction to something, which like probably was the best thing for you to do at that point anyway. But I also think like and I think that it's changing a lot with the newer generations, I hope at least, is that like outside experience should not be seen as a negative, or or taking a break in your career trajectory should like, or like a not a linear career trajectory should not be looked as a negative, because I truly think specifically in creative industries, but also like a lot of different industries can benefit from that outside experience a lot. Like even it with any kind of like customer relations, like, or like marketing, like you have to, there's psychology within that, like there's dealing with people. Like I've probably learned more from working at a pizzeria in college and dealing with drunk, angry patrons than I have with like traditional marketing experience and like learning a class. Like it's not like you don't really like pick what really impacts you, and it just kind of like happens. But there's so many lived experiences that contribute to being good at what you're good at, and I think that that's not always considered on like a resume, or it doesn't look good, or whatever. And I hope that that gets a little better, because I completely understand what you're saying.
That's such a good point. I'm glad you mentioned the resume piece, because I recently was part of this like mentor program where I got to talk to a bunch of freshly graduated students, and it's kind of a little sad to see how intimidated they are, because their resume, obviously, like they just got out of school, so it's not going to be, you know, super full of different positions. And I the thing that I kept harping on was, just because you don't have this specific role experience doesn't mean you're inexperienced. Like what you mentioned about your pizza job, right? Like you learn so many things without even knowing that you're learning them sometimes. So just because your resume isn't super stacked, I don't think that that disqualifies you, or it shouldn't disqualify you, as far as what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it's also like how you spin it in an interview sometimes, if you can even
Mm-hmm.
get one, if they don't flag you for not having the, you know, linear experience that everyone's looking for. But
Girl, don't even get me started on this. Like, cause so we did get a chance to talk to a hiring manager, with when I was at Indeed, and I understand that sometimes, given the volume that they have to go through, they need certain tools that can sort of minimize the sheer amount of resumes they have to look for, right?
yeah,
But at the same time, when you use a software program that scans those resumes, I feel like you're losing a lot of like intangible things. Like if the person has a really great sense of design, or a great eye for design, it's going to show in their resume. And when you're scanning for those things, the computer is not going to pick those things up. They're
yep,
they're they're looking for those specific buzzwords that is ultimately going to help them. But if they can figure out, and they do figure out how to hack it, where like, oh, you're looking for this and this, let me just put that in my resume, and boom, like now I rise to the top. And so it's like, if we go that route, then it's not really so much a meritocracy at that point. It's more so just like, who can, you know, hack the system better. So I think it's unfortunate that sometimes people don't get the time and exposure they deserve. You know.
I 100% agree. I think that also, like, I hate any trend that moves towards hacks
Mm-hmm.
instead of like genuine, authentic relationships or connections. And
Totally.
I do think that like with all these scanning tools and like AI being incorporated into the process as well, I think that that's a negative. What I
Mm-hmm.
do see as somewhat of a positive with AI being incorporated into like literally everything is that I think that authenticity is more important now, because anyone can kind of utilize this to make something. And so I think that that's something that I'm kind of positive about.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're being genuine and authentic, like you're likely to stand out in this like very oversaturated environment that's a lot of times heavily reliant on AI or AI tools.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. I think whether it's like the hiring person or just like the creative team or the brand that engages an agency, like being going through the maybe like the long way of getting something done will 100% set you apart from the people that try to take the shortcut and you know do something that is heavily AI. For example, recently Audi posted this amazing spot where they used like hundreds of little toy Audi cars, and it was a stop motion video,
Mm-hmm.
and it you could tell there was craft there. It must have. I'm sure it took them so long to get every single thing right, and there's so many Easter eggs, and you can see the reception that it had with viewers. Like you could tell that this was made by hand and crafted with care versus something that you know you type in a prompt, you hit enter, and then you refine it a couple times. There's just it's going to help. I think, in my opinion, it's going to help you stand out in the best way possible.
I completely agree, and I think also with those scenarios, I think that a lot of people, even if they can't necessarily like they don't have an eye for seeing how much like work was put into something, I think that anything that you a brand like kind of says about a project can reflect that level of care, if that makes sense. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you created something really really amazing that took an incredible amount of time, and people like it and it's well received, but they don't actually know how much work was put into that. Like, you can talk about that. Like, and I mean, it doesn't seem like you're bragging. It shows how much you care about like how your brand is reflected. And I think that that's something that people miss sometimes, is like, you know, maybe something doesn't get as many reviews, or like maybe it doesn't achieve the goals in which they're looking for. But like if they are I don't see it as a failure if they're continuing to like uphold their brand
Mm-hmm.
standards of like what is important to them. And
Yeah.
I think that people will always see that positively, even if it doesn't always generate like this perfect goal that you're trying to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It kind of is like showing people that you're about it instead of just saying you're about it. It's all
Yeah,
about your intention for sure.
exactly. Okay, I have one more question for you because we are coming up on time. This was so fun. Okay. I want to know, I always like to end on like a reflective note. So, for the future, what would you like for people to associate with your work? Like like a feeling or a, you know, like a characteristic, like what would you like your legacy to be? I know that's a big ask.
Yeah, that's a great question. I, it's hard because in my head there's always two voices sort of like arguing with each other. One is sort of like the sense of humor, keeping things light and trying to be clever and kind of the surprise and delight of things. And then the other voice is very much steeped in humanity and making something with heart and using advertising as a platform to make the world a better place. So, like, yes, we have clients that we have to answer to, and we're going to make work that we need to make. But one of the reasons I love where I'm at is that Tilt always tries to do some form of pro bono work, whether it's working with nonprofits or helping out a cause. Like it, I think it's so important to use our power and our role as sort of these like I wouldn't say gatekeepers of communication, but it's like kind of the controllers, like in an airport, right? Where you kind of are directing the flow of traffic. And so when you have the opportunity to work with a client or a brand that's actually doing great things, like there's no better feeling. So um, long answer short, I guess I would say I would hope that my work be known for having heart and makes you giggle a little bit. I don't know. A little hybrid answer, I guess.
No, I think that, I mean, I didn't say you only needed one word, but so I think that a hybrid answer is totally acceptable. But I know, I really appreciate the sentiment around that, because I think a lot of people, when they're focused on legacy, a lot of times they focus on like achievements, if that makes sense. And I think that sometimes that is, yeah, I shouldn't say the wrong way about looking at things, because like everyone can have their own goals, but I think that that's like a little on the surface. Like, I mean, I don't think that if you really do care about your craft, I think you more care about like how it's received, and like what, like, I don't know if you're proud of it. I'm sure that's part of it. But yeah, and I appreciate what you kind of hold true and dear to your work, because I think that that's something that kind of shows that you care about your artistry and like what you do. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up the awards element, because I feel like sometimes when it comes to awards, things can start to like slip away from you, like as far as remembering what's important, right? Like anytime there's a competition, you sort of invite a certain amount of toxicity into the equation. And even though I think accolades and awards are great ways to motivate people and to kind of reward people that have worked really hard, sometimes it's easy to mistake awards for value. And so just because you don't have any awards doesn't mean that you're not doing great work, and vice versa. I think the most satisfying feeling for me as a creative in advertising is when I can, and I'm going to shamelessly plug this metaphor that my creative director always tells us, is like, in a spark plug situation, right? Like when you're dealing with a car, the way a spark plug works is there's these two objects, and the electricity needs to be able to jump from one to the other. If the spark plug is too far away, it won't jump. But if it's too close, it'll sort of short out. And so you have to have it just far enough. And the way this relates to advertising is when you create a concept or come up with an idea for a campaign or an ad, you're sort of doing the same thing. You're trying to connect two things together, and you want to leave just enough space so that the viewer can sort of put them together in their own minds, because that's going to create this like, I see what they were doing there. And so when that spark plug is just right, that's the best feeling for me.
Oh, I really love that. I mean, yeah, I think that it is really like sometimes a balancing act, and like when something like fits just right, it kind of feels like really like monumental, almost like you've completed something that is just like, because I don't know, I see like creativity as, especially when you're doing it for like a purpose, I guess, if that makes sense. Like that could be for a client, or that could be for like a certain goal or objective. There's like problem solving involved in that.
Totally.
And I think like when you optimally solve that problem, it feels really good, because it's like, oh, okay, like I did this right, even if it's not like, you know, the right and wrong is subjective, but like, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, no, I think that's a really great way of looking at it. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was an absolute pleasure. I'm like bummed that I have to stop this. But this was so much fun. Thank you for playing this game with me. Thank you for sharing about your career journey. This was genuinely such a fun time, and I know that a lot of people get a lot out of it. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. This was great. Anytime that a conversation can be had where we express ideas and sort of converse about different elements of this industry, I think it can only help us. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. We'd be nothing without you. You can check Carlos down in the description, and maybe you can ask him some questions. I'm sure he would love to answer your questions.
Bring it on.
Maybe don't hold me to that, actually. If Carlos doesn't answer any of your questions, I didn't ask his consent to give him questions.
No, I'm an open book. Bring it on.
But thank you, Carlos, again. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you can check out other episodes, and thank you again. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.